Chris has asked me to give my testimony tonight. I know it's entitled A Personal Pentecost, so that's descriptive very much of what I want to share with you tonight. But I'm very conscious that any testimony is a testimony that focuses on the wonderful works of God, and that's what I want to do tonight, speak about the wonderful works of God, not about Julian Porteous. And I think the other thing that's important is that when I'm sharing some of my own experiences, I'd really like to encourage you to reflect on your own experiences. My story will be unique because it's about the journey that the Lord led me on, but it's the one Spirit, it's the one God, it's the one Lord that's at work, and His works are harmonious. They're not off in all different directions. There's one Spirit at work. There's one work of God that's occurring at the present moment in the world. It's one work of the Spirit at this moment in history. And so what I'd like to invite you to do is, as I'm sharing some things, maybe you can be thinking about how the Lord has moved in your life, and some things maybe I'll say along the way, but more importantly, I often ask the question, what is God doing? The deeper question, what are the plans and purposes of God? And, we get caught up in a work that's greater than we understand. It's beyond our own just perception of things, just in the story of our own individual life, our own particular journey. So as I share some things tonight, I'd really like you just to think a bit yourself about your own journey, how, I was about to say you encountered God, but how God encountered you. But more particularly, what God is doing in and through that encounter. Where is it going? What is God's work beyond ourselves? So I'll come back to that at the very end. So you might just bear that in mind as I'm sharing a little bit. I guess I need to give a few simple biographical things to set a scene. So I like to say I was born in the first half of the last century. It makes me ancient. I love to say that at school with kids. Oh, wow. 1949. And I grew up in a Catholic family. Both my parents were Catholic, and I'm the eldest of 5 children, and we went through Catholic schooling, and we went to Mass on Sundays, and not intensely involved in the church, but certainly a strong Catholic environment. And I went through schooling, went to a Catholic school, secondary school, and so on. For my own personal journey, and what I realise now was probably the first particular moment of grace for me was when I was in probably 6th class. I'm not sure if it's 5th or 6th class, but 5th or 6th class at school. One day I went, as we did in those days, we just used to go and make a little visit to the chapel for a few moments just before school, carrying a globe white school case and leave it outside and duck in and say a little prayer at the altar rails and duck out again, 30 seconds effort. But one day when I did that and just kneeling at the altar rails with no particular thoughts in my mind on this subject, I just had a word, I had a thought, I had a clear sense, one day you'll be a priest. And it's just stayed with me. I didn't understand very much more than that at that time, but then that thought carried on. I thought, well, that's what I will do. I'll become a priest. And so I went through high school with that at the back of my mind, but just took part in normal things in high schools and so on. And then immediately after, at the end of high school, I went into the seminary and began studies. Those days there were 2 seminaries, one in Springwood, the first 3 years, which was philosophy, and then come down to Manly. And so I began in 1968. In 1971, I came to Manly to continue my studies. This was the moment of the second particular grace and powerful grace. Because 1971, the charismatic renewal had begun to come into Sydney. Dr. Alex Reichel was a mathematics professor who was doing work on, I think, sabbatical work over in the United States. And there he was at one of the universities that first experienced the charismatic renewal. And then when he came back to Sydney, he actually went along to Cardinal Gilroy and asked for his approval to begin a prayer meeting. And the prayer meetings were actually held at St Michael's College on City Road, just at Sydney Uni. And it was mainly university students, and Alex was there, and there was a group of many of young people, principally university students. And some of the seminarians got wind of it, and a couple of were going along. And then they invited, I remember one or two of them just saying, why don't you come along on Sunday nights, on Friday nights? So I went along with a couple of my classmates, and we just went along. And it was really, for me, I'd had a traditional Catholic upbringing, and, and when I had what I saw as my preparing to be a priest, I just want to be a good priest, and so I really want to focus on being a good priest means being a good seminarian and taking part in the religious life of the seminary and doing the studies and trying to obey the rules and a few things like that, And I thought, well, that's how you go about preparing to be a priest. And so when I went along to this prayer meeting, it was really a bit of a revelation to start off with. They had all these really simple songs with the guitars, and there was a lot of joy and clapping of hands, and songs like "Smile a while and give your face a rest." I think. Really simple songs, like so. But there was something infectious about it too, And now I didn't understand about baptism of the Spirit and all those things, but I went along with the seminarians, and for us it was good. We met some other young people, and the kind of the whole thing was a joyful, happy thing, and so I just remember going along, and in those days it was mainly there were the exercise of charismatic gifts, but not so much. It was more the songs and putting hands in the air that I remember, and jumping around, being happy. That sort of joyful spirit. And that was fresh and new and good. I never knew what used to happen, because at the end of the prayer meeting, a group of them, who seemed to be the leaders or those most involved, would go into a back room. There's another room, and other people would go in, and there seemed to be things happening in there. I didn't know what they were. I was happy enough just to have a cup of coffee and talk to the people who were there. But one night, they said to me, would you like to come? Would you like to be prayed with, you see? And I said, oh yeah, I won't knock back prayer. But I didn't really understand what it was. I didn't understand the meaning of it. And so I said, okay, I'm happy to, if somebody wants to pray for me, I'm not going to knock that back. So I went into the prayer, and then I remember very distinctly they asked me, do you give your life to the Lord, or something, or words to that effect, do you give your life to the Lord? Now, at that time, I didn't really understand that either. But I said, yeah, I'm a Catholic, I'm a seminarian, yeah. It was just kind of the deeper meaning and significance of it didn't grab me at that moment. But so I remember saying yes. And